Yo, what's up? Today we're sitting in the Kia EV9, and in this video we're going to talk about the NAF range test. Yeah, it's going to be another 4K podcast. I haven't had it in a while. I'm actually now driving towards Trysil with this EV9. I'm going to test drive an electric truck from Scania. Ooh. But okay, that'll be covered in another video. So today I need to talk about the NAF winter range test and the summer range test that they have. And the reason why I have to make this video is because there's been many people who ask me in my channel in the comments like, hey Bjørn, yeah, the Hi-Fi set won the test and Tesla did it quite poorly. What kind of comments do you have about that, or stuff like that, you know? And I mean, the test has been out for many years now. NAF has been doing this, but I haven't really bothered to comment about it until now. I feel like I need to speak up about that test, because there are things about that test that you should know about. I think many people don't know, or when I read the comments, when I see how it has been posted on electric, I get the impression that they have no clue about how the test has been done and what kind of obvious flaws it has. So, by the way, NAF is a big organization in Norway about automobiles, Norges Automobilforbund, that's what it stands for. It's similar to ADAC in Germany, so yeah, I don't know in the US what they have there, but so they will do this test twice per year, this range test, big range test, and different from my test because I drive alone. I drive just one car at a time. I drive the same stretch, actually this stretch over here, but they drive a bunch of cars together, and that means they need to have a lot of different drivers. So it's a big thing, you know, and it has gained more publicity over the years, to the point where other, I don't know, websites or other EV groups or forums or whatever, right? Car place, yeah, they start referring to this test. Yeah, so let me then explain first how the test is performed. So previously they started from Vulkan parking garage downtown Oslo, but now they start from Skur. Wait, was it Skur 3? Yeah, they call. But okay, it's Tjuvholmen. It's a little bit, yeah, it's central in the downtown. Actually, pretty much on sea level. Near Aker Brygge, if you guys know, or Tjuvholmen, or that area there. And then the route goes first straight into the ring road, and then a little bit into the city parts, a little on the western side, and then up towards yeah, okay, maybe you guys don't care too much about the detail, but what I'm saying is that there is a bit of city driving mixed in there, but maybe just 10 kilometers of city driving until they then hit the ring road and head north. Actually, similar route that I tend to take when I do the Sunday driving, which is Highway 4 via Gjøvik, and then they end up in Gudbrandsdalen, the Godfire Valley, and they drive north all the way to Dombås, and then they drive even further north up the mountains, Dovrefjell, to Hjerkinn, and then they turn east towards Folldal, and then once they reach Folldal, they will then take the route straight south via that valley, and then end up at Ringebu. No, but they take Venabygdsfjell. So what I'm saying is that the route goes to roughly 1,000 over sea level at Hjerkinn. Folldal is also 700 meters over sea level, 700, 800, depending on where you count. So I know that route. I have taken that route many times. Well, maybe not that exact ring, but I have driven around there many times. Like, it's like my home turf. So that's the route roughly, and the procedures that first of all, they don't precondition the car. They don't preheat the cabin. They don't preheat the battery even if it has a feature like that. For example, if you preheat the Tesla, it will actually preheat the battery also. Some other cars will also do that. The MEB cars, you know, Volkswagen ID3, ID4, which is called Ioniq, even the Q4 e-tron, not the fat e-tron. I don't know about the fat e-tron, probably not, but which is an advantage for electric cars to preheat the cabin and preheat the battery. It will give the car a better starting position, especially in winter, and for some reason NAF, they don't do that. I talked to NAF, by the way. I was actually going to participate 1 year, so I talked to them about this and pointed out the obvious flaws, but then COVID happened, and then the whole NAF, the big test was called off, and then when they resume again after some long time, I was not invited, but I didn't really care because I prefer doing my own thing. The problem with this big test is that they need to nail down a date for it long time in advance because so many people are involved. Whereas when I do my test, I'm more nimble, I'm more lean. Well, except for, I mean, not physically, but at least mentally lean. No, but I can do my test when there is no freaking snowstorm outside or something like that. No, I try to avoid traffic in general. I'll come back to that why, but at least yeah, it's no big deal. I don't feel angry or something for not being invited because I actually prefer doing my own thing. I'm like Chuck Norris, you know, so I'm the lone wolf. Yeah, so back to the procedure then. Yeah, so they don't preheat, they start driving with different drivers. I think some cars even have several people in there, but it doesn't matter. Weight doesn't really matter that much, unless you end up in the mountain, of course. I'll also come back to that, but still, just the fact that they have different drivers and that they have to drive on B roads. Most of the route I describe now is mainly on B roads, which means that you have variable speed and you cannot maintain the same speed for every driver at most situations because of traffic. And they also do this in the daytime in a regular, I don't know, weekday, or I'm not sure when, but at least there's traffic they have to deal with. And I remember when I did the briefing that they said, well, just follow the speed limit. That's one of the kind of rules they set. But of course, if there is a really slow driver, then you have to overtake. So you can already see that there is already a lot of room for slack and variation here, and variables out of your control. Yeah, like here, for example. This guy's driving so slow past, what? I know you have a BMW, but how about hammering it? I mean, these fossil drivers, they always brag that they have so good range and they can just refill in 5 minutes. But why do you drive so slow then? Are you trying to save dinosaur juice? Yeah, because dinosaur juice is getting expensive. Okay, let's hammer it. Bye-bye. Wow, huh? I saw the guys when I just passed them, and they were sitting in this this warm hat, there's a warm beanie that you have also on the side, you know, like skylappe, like the type of hat you will wear when you're going on an expedition to the North Pole. What? Either they don't have leftover heat in there, or the car is quite cold. Okay, anyway, back to the. Sorry, remember that this is a 4K podcast. It's a rambling, it's a rant, so don't take everything 100% seriously, and also don't expect everything to be nailed down like MKBHD, where it's just bam, 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 this phone is good, this phone is bad. Yeah, okay, but yeah, back to the procedure. So the fact that they have different drivers could open up for slack in how it's been performed. And I'm not sure how strict they can be, or I even heard that some people they take the wrong they take the wrong turn, you know, they pull a James May and so on. But yeah, maybe it doesn't matter too much as long as you follow the rules of the race, right? Or they call it El Grand Prix, even though it's not really a race, it's a range test. But okay, anyway, they drive then, and they're supposed to run out of juice at one point. But also another thing I need to point out is that when it comes to cabin temperature, I think they set the cabin temperature to 21 degrees Celsius. But do they take into account Chinese cars? You know, there are more and more Chinese cars nowadays. Do they know that a Chinese car, if you put it at 21 degrees Celsius, it will actually be quite cold, especially during winter. You have to have it on 25 on the Chinese cars, most Chinese cars. This is not just an empty claim. I have tested this and documented it in the video even. And also, you know, when I talked to Xpeng, even Xpeng told me that they have tuned the car's HVAC system differently, because Chinese people, when they set to 21 degrees Celsius in Chinese summer, I guess, they expect it to be nice and cool. They don't want it to be warm. So what happens during winter in China? Well, maybe they don't have cold weather in China. I don't know, man. But again, I don't know how the hi-fi set was tested recently. Did they put 21 degrees Celsius or 25 degrees Celsius in the cabin? And then also I wonder who tested the set. But okay, whatever, it doesn't matter. But here is the essence, the main problem, the main weakness of the test, which is that they drive until the car stops. And then they count how many kilometers each car has driven. And like I mentioned initially, you go to 1,000 meters over sea level. They start at sea level. So which means that if the car is unlucky, they will end up in the mountain with no juice, right? Whereas other cars with better range or shorter range, they end up in the lowland. And how much of impact does this elevation change have? Well, I know 1,000 meter elevation change, depending on the weight of the car, is, I'm not going to bother you guys with all the math, but it will equal to roughly 5 to 7 kilowatt hour. But then normally they don't end up at sea level anymore. They end up around Mjøsen area, which is roughly at 200 meters over sea level. So you can say roughly 4 or 5 kilowatt hour then, right? But at least the difference is that if you end up at 800 meters over sea level versus 200, yeah, that's the 4 or 5 kilowatt hour I'm talking about. And then based on the battery size, it can mean, let's say a 5, maybe not 10%, but let's say 5 to 7% disadvantage for some cars. And also the highest point is roughly 400 kilometers away from Oslo. So if the car has around 400 kilometers of range, it would end up there in the highlands rather than a couple of hundred. But then you need to have at least 150 more kilometers of range. So yeah, I think roughly if you have around 500 something kilometers of range, then you can run down the hill and regen a lot. So this is the reason why many Teslas, they have been performing so well in the summer test, because they can clear the mountains, get past Folldal, and then get down in the lowland. But then if the conditions are right and it just happens to be cold and the cars cannot go that far, then they might end up in the mountain. Yeah, but when I talked to NAF about this, I pointed out this flaw, and they acknowledged that they understand the flaw. And I said it's quite easy to correct for this. If you know the end point or wherever the car ends up, you can find out afterwards even the elevation there, and you know the actual weight of the car. You have to also check the actual weight, not the claim weight. And here's where the extra 75 kilogram co-driver might actually also affect the result. But you can correct for this in the result, but they don't, which is the biggest flaw with a test. Another fairly big flaw is that they test until the car runs out of juice. I also do that, but they count that range also in the final range, which I disagree with, because most normal people, they don't drive the car to zero. They might drive it down to, they don't drive it until the car stops. They might drive it to zero something, right? But most people, they don't count on getting, let's say, 20, 30 kilometers past zero, which means that whatever range each car gets past zero is more or less irrelevant. And another problem is that that buffer that some cars have below zero, it changes. It can change over the year. It might not change, but I've seen examples that it changes, especially in Tesla. So, for example, if a Tesla is relatively new, it might have 20 20 kilometer of buffer, or actually not kilometer. These buffers, they are measured in kilowatt hour usually, not in kilometers. But you might have somewhere between 3 and 4 kilowatt hour buffer. But as the battery ages, and also if the battery gets slightly out of calibration, not balancing, unbalanced battery and uncalibrated battery, those are two different things. But if the battery is slightly uncalibrated, it doesn't know the top and like the max and the min anymore, and then suddenly when they think it is at rock bottom, it is not there, or the other way around, I mean. So I experienced this many times that, you know, I used to be able to drive 20 kilometers past 0% on the Tesla, but then suddenly in another situation, the Tesla stopped at 0% or 0 kilometer, or just a couple of kilometers past zero. So this is why you should not count, you should not play Russian roulette and end up in a place you don't want to end up, let's say in a tunnel, or let's say even over here, it's a bit inconvenient because there is no emergency stop pocket, right? So they should, NAF should count how much, just test how much it goes below 0%, but don't count it in the final result. That's what I claim. And what else? You know, when I do my range test, I always check on GPS what the actual speed is. For example, this Kia here, I have to drive at 94 kilometers per hour on the speedo to match 90 GPS speed. I don't know if NAF corrects for that or not, because they were probably just instructed to go by the speed limit, so they just go, so then most cars, they go under the speed limit. But then there's no problem, right? Well, the problem is that some cars like Tesla, they have quite accurate speedometer, but not only Tesla, but this even depends on the tire pressure, because the cars have been pre-programmed to show a certain speed, right? But then as you change the tire pressure, you will actually change the error. For example, Tesla, normally I have to cruise at 91 kilometers per hour, whereas some other cars, I have to cruise at almost 95, 96, and that actually becomes significant that you can drive slow, especially if you have a big boxy car and you can actually drive slower than the other cars. So and another thing is distance error. If I don't know how the test has been performed, because I never had participated and I never asked in detail, but from what I remember, maybe they used GPS for that part, but why the heck is this truck driving so slow? What the heck? No, but okay, so another problem is distance error. If they look at the trip meter I found out to also have error. It is not the corresponding error with the speed, but some people think, but when it comes to the speed error, this has actually been pre-programmed by the car manufacturer on purpose, in case you have incorrect tire pressure. They don't want you to go over the speed limit on accident. However, I think that's a bit weird, because all the systems, speed cameras or police, when they want to catch you speeding, they will always deduct 1 to 2 kilometers per hour anyway. And also most systems, they even have some slack. So you have to go more than just a couple of kilometers per hour over the speed limit, unless you're in Thailand, then they add kilometers per hour. I don't know, just get the impression that that's how they do it over there. But so the distance error is also significant, because I have measured over and over again, especially when they do 1,000 kilometer challenge. You guys see that I don't count to 1,000. Many times I count to, I think the highest error I had was 2.7% in the I-Pace. I-Pace was actually underreporting. So in the I-Pace, I count to 973 kilometers, I think it was, right? Which is actually real 1,000. And this is again not just an empty claim, because when I do my 1,000 kilometer challenges, I tend to also end up on the same chargers, which means that I drive the same distance for every car. And then when I do the countdown, I end up at the same spot every time. You know, if my measurements were not correct, I would end up at different spots, and then there's something wrong, right? Then we have ugler i mosen, owls in the moss. Yeah. So then I don't know how they measure the distance correctly. I can admit that I have made some errors in the past when I did the 24-hour world record with the Model 3 and also the hypermiling with various cars, Tesla and Kona. I look at the car's display. Not GPS distance corrected, whatever. So you see, if you want to measure everything correctly, and especially if you're going to compare against a bunch of other cars, you have to be ABC. You have to be as correct as possible. And this test, unfortunately, is not. And what other problems is out there? That's mainly the flaws with the test. So why did I make this video? Well, because I feel like I need to educate people, and I'm not making this video to make my test myself look better and NAF look worse. Actually, I praise NAF for making this test. I also have big respect for them, because organizing something big like this takes a lot of effort. I have done some races with just 2 people, right, or 3 people, but mostly 2 people. I have to collect some press cars and return them and organize. And if we go far, we have some sleepover. We went to the Arctic Circle. We had to pay for the hotel. We had to nail the date, and there's so much stuff. And you can imagine the tenfold of this when you have over 20 cars participating. How much work it is behind it. But I feel like it is important to have real-world tests, because you don't always achieve that. Some car manufacturers, like we've seen in the past, I-Pace, like Toyota BZ, people cannot achieve the claimed VLTP range. Oh yeah, another thing I need to point out is that NAF, they focus a lot on comparing their own test, which is flawed, versus VLTP range. And VLTP is different. It is a test cycle that they have worked out that is based on 18 degrees Celsius ambient temperature and HVAC off. So it almost doesn't make any sense to compare that so-called summer result against a winter result. Or they should at least emphasize that, you know, okay, the cars, they have a big deviation, but remember that this is winter result. It was quite cold outside. There's no too much detail about the cars they tested. How cold was it outside? What kind of tires, rims did we have? You know, stuff that actually affects the consumption, the result. So sorry, I just have to focus now on getting past this left lane hugger, but I also have to focus on the light conditions. Yeah, okay, but anyway, what else is it? Man, there's so much stuff I need to talk about. I can talk about Toyota, by the way. Toyota purposely refused to join this event, or they didn't provide a car. And then I did some digging and read some articles, and it turns out that Toyota, they well, let me just tell the story, right? So you get one part of the story, and I'll explain. So what happened was that, so then NAF, they went ahead and they rented a car instead, a Toyota BZ, because they consider that the BZ is quite important. Lots of customers have been asking them about the BZ. You know, are you going to test the BZ? And they'll be like, yeah, of course. But then somehow they ended up with a rental car that had 33,000 kilometers on the odometer, and they did the test. And the Toyota didn't go that far, 300 and something kilometers. But as expected, I don't know, 300 kilometers. I think, yeah, that sounds like they went semi up the hill, maybe. Yeah, they gained some elevation before they ran out. They didn't run out in the lowlands, which is a disadvantage for the Toyota. But then afterwards, Toyota, they were not happy, and they had some press release about they should have, the NAF should have used the BZ4X, the newest one, which has some improvements, some upgrades. And that were not happy that NAF used a second-hand car with so high mileage. And I was thinking, well, excusez-moi, Toyota, they have 1 million kilometer of battery warranty, right? So, and then the car also gives you punishment points if you try to fast charge too much. So they should be quite confident that a car with 33k on the odometer should not have much degradation at all, right? Maybe if there is any, maybe 1 kilowatt hour, which shouldn't affect the consumption, the result too much. But then what about the improvements on the latest and greatest BZ4X then? Well, I don't know what's up with that, but at least that's how the story was, roughly. And I was like, lol, they should have just provided with the latest and greatest BZ4X. But here's the thing, that Toyota, they are kind of against this test, because they claim that range test has been tested. It is pointless, kind of, you know, in my own words, is that they claim that it is pointless because range is not the only thing that people consider, and there are other aspects of the car, and also they claim that you need to usually take a rest anyway after several hours of driving, and then you might as well plug in charge, which I agree with. Yeah, today's cars, they have so good range that normally, you know, especially when I do 1,000 kilometer challenge, I kind of need to stretch it. But for the 1,000 kilometer challenge, there's a different scenario. You are able to go fast, like over here, and then you drain the battery faster. So the time you spend until you need to charge might be just, let's say, 2 hours. Some people want to go further than 2 hours, especially during winter. But at least if you drive on B roads, then you can actually go maybe 5-6 hours before you need to charge. So I do agree at some extent with Toyota, but the problem is that even today, people do consider range as one criteria when they consider the car. So doing a real-world test of the range still matters. So yeah, but you see, why am I making this test? Why am I making this video? Because I actually want to help the car manufacturers, because I feel the frustration with the car manufacturers, because they are thrown into this, and it's not only Toyota, by the way. BMW, I talked to Marius from BMW about this. They provided with another car, another i5, when they did the test. They were kind of just shadowing the other car. But they also came out openly that they are not doing this to verify the test. They actually wanted to learn more about it and also gather their own data. So that's you know, BMW. And I also heard that other brands, they also had some people from the manufacturer to observe or join them. Since this is just a test on an open road, public road, anyone can actually join them, right? As long as they don't disturb the test cars. But I also talked to some other people in the car industry, and many of them, they agree that this test is flawed. Some of them also, like Fred Magne Skillebæk from Elbil24, he also had an article when he pretty much said the same thing I said about this test. Elbilforeningen, which is the Norwegian EV Association, they also disagree with this test. They think the same thing, pretty much. The test setup has errors that has not been corrected for, and it gives wrong impression of each car, or it makes it unfair for each car. By the way, I'm not making this video to defend Tesla. It's like I said, you know, cars that has roughly 400 kilometers of range, they get a very big disadvantage. So, now we get pretty bad light conditions. We'll see how it goes, but yeah. So in a way, silently, the car manufacturers, they are just suffering, and they'll be like, oh shit, you know, not much to do. And also other car enthusiasts, or you know, they also kind of face palm silently. But For some reason, NAF, they don't correct for this, and they keep doing these tests. And clueless consumers, they they see the test and they just read the conclusions, right? Which is that Hi-Fi set won the test. It had the longest range. But yeah, I forgot to mention one other thing. Another flaw with the test is that they only test new cars coming out this year, 2024 or late 2023, and they only compare them against each other, which means that the Hi-Fi set, which has 120 kilowatt-hour battery, cost over 100,000 euros, was never compared against a Model S long-range Palladium, for example, or an EQS, or an EQE, at least, you know, something with 120 kilowatt-hour battery. Wait, shit. No. Okay, brain working hard, calculating projection. So that, yeah, and also for the case of Tesla, yeah, I also noticed that the Highland, for some reason, had somewhat high consumption compared to some other cars, which also doesn't make any sense, because I have tested over and over again and found out that Highland is super efficient, especially during winter. And even if you didn't preheat the battery and cabin, eventually things will flatten out, it will even out, and the more efficient car in the long run should still be able to do it well. But based on the test setup, I suspect that maybe the Highland ran out in the Highlands, yeah. And that's why it did it poorly. And also, yeah, in terms of consumption numbers, by the way, if you run out of juice in the Highland, it could actually be as much as 10 to 20 watt-hour per kilometer difference, you know, in the consumption, or kilowatt-hour per 100 kilometer. Yeah, and also when you also count in other factors, like I mentioned, the speedometer error, the whatever, right? Yeah. But one thing I should also point out is that Tesla tends to over-report the distance. So when you see that, oh, you have driven 1,000 kilometers in Tesla, it is not 1,000. It is maybe 990, 985 kilometers. That means that in a way the consumption number there is like it's lower. I mean, sorry, it's the reality is that the consumption is higher. But Tesla is not unique. There are many other cars who also over-report like that. But I also need to point out one other thing. Some people claim that Tesla consumption is incorrect because they don't count everything that consumes. Some people even claim that the heater is not counted. So that is bullshit. I don't know where they get it from. I've tested it over and over again. Tesla counts everything. However, Tesla does not count when you're stationary. And that's also not unique with Tesla. Even this EV9 doesn't count when you're stationary. But then for some reason, the German cars, as long as you are, the car is on and you are in park even, it counts, which I disagree with, because that is not the part of the test. Or I mean, that is not part of the trip. The trip stops when you put the car in park. Even when you're in a stoplight, you don't have to be in park. You can just be in drive and with auto hold and shit like that. Well, okay. Anyway, back to the NAF thing again. So, yeah. You see, I'm not the only one here who claims that the test is flawed. Like I mentioned, you know, that there are big like groups or whatever I should call them out there who also claims the same. And since I have a big channel and people start bugging me about this, I feel like, just like when you guys bug me about the sun, you know, I feel like I need to speak up a bit and maybe convince NAF that they need to change this test, because they are now sitting on a data set of previous results, which is flawed, but they can actually even correct this afterwards. If they find out at least the biggest flaw, you know, elevation change, they can correct for this. But they should also in the future have a more accurate test, yeah, with all the factors. Because, you know, when I do my range test, I take in account everything I mentioned here. But I also show you if the road is wet, if it's windy even. I don't lie about that. And what else? But my test goes from A to B to A. I have the ABA testing, yeah. they have the ABC testing. No, but so I start and end at the same point, which then corrects for elevation change, or there's no elevation change advantage at least. But when it comes to wind will actually also affect the consumption. I forgot to mention that. If you are unlucky and you have lots of headwind, right, in the beginning, that becomes a disadvantage for you. But then some cars who are lucky to clear that and they can turn around, they then get the tailwind. But also wind is kind of tricky because it doesn't have the same direction all over the place. So some places you can have tailwind one place, and then you turn around and you get tailwind again on another valley or some shit like that. Or later in the day, yeah, the wind also changes like that. So I have over 10 years of experience with testing cars, and also when I started doing range tests, that was roughly maybe 8 years ago. I have so much experience with how stuff affects it. And even when it comes to wind, even when you start and end at the same point, if you have strong wind, that affects it negatively because of the fixed. But yeah, something about when you have headwind versus tailwind, the difference in consumption when you go against the wind is less if you go back or some shit like that. I don't remember exactly how it was. But also, even if you have crosswinds, so that you don't get headwind, crosswind also makes the consumption go up in most cases. But then Nissan, they claim that they have designed the Nissan Leaf, the 40 kilowatt hour Leaf and so on, to be able to utilize the crosswind. I'm like, huh, really? Is it sailing on it? Like, oh, okay. That's simply amazing. Yeah, but so you see that I'm just dipping into the surface here, but there are so many factors that affects the consumption. Oh, another thing, by the way, tire pressure, yeah, and also rims, yeah. And also, by the way, Toyota, they were not happy because that test car they had not original rims. But from what I saw in the picture, it seems to not have any crazy low-profile tires, at least. So at least if the tires are fairly normal size and also maybe normal brand, right? Like Nokian or some of the common ones, Nokian or Continental, Pirelli, then no problem, right? So yeah, and also, well, when it comes to the test with the Toyota, since they're driving somewhat slow, we are talking about 60 kilometers per hour average speed here. The shape of the rim does not matter too much. The tire can matter because the tire rolling resistance of the tire is more or less constant. It can change maybe based on temperatures and stuff or surface, but as long as you have common tire brand, then it shouldn't be a problem. So if I would investigate more into the Toyota case, I could find out lots of stuff, you know, but I don't have time to do that. I just read some stuff and make my conclusion based on it, which should still be quite accurate anyway. Yeah, so what else was I gonna say? It is yeah, okay. So for this video to be somewhat useful for NAF, I should come up with some recommendation what they should do to change this. So one thing they should do is to correct for the elevation change, either by finding out the elevation where the car stopped. They should also not count below zero, or at least they can document it, but not put it in the final table. They should compare against other comparable cars in the same price range, the same segment. You know, like Hi-Fi Set, you have to compare it against an EQS and a Model S, which has a similar shape and similar price, you know, similar battery size. And what else? You should also, what the heck is going on there? There's a dude walking by them. Okay. Achtung, Achtung. Wait, I have to focus here in case there's some, yeah, okay. Okay. I don't know what's going on there. Oh yeah, my recommendation. Either they do that, they apply correction, or maybe even better, in my opinion, is that they should start and end. Okay, the end point shouldn't be in the highland, but I can see that it could be troublesome or a little bit challenging to maybe end up at sea level or around Oslo. Yeah, especially depending on the time of the day and shit like that, right? But at least if you can try to end up somewhere outside of Oslo, that would be great. Yeah, because then you will have less. I mean, the elevation change will be less, and it will be the same for every car if each car actually ends up at the same end point. So what they can do is that they can do the Gjøvik route or whatever, right? But then once you hit around 55 to 60%, you should turn back. But it depends if they are not driving the same distance back again. Let's say at least 60%. I mean, why do I say this? Because each car, they have different way of displaying percent, actually. The Korean cars, they have non-linear state of charge scale. So when you have discharged it down to 50% battery, when you do the math, you have spent more than 60% of the energy in the battery. This is quite common. Well, I mean, maybe it's not common knowledge, but I have known this for a long time. I have measured this over and over again. And also the Korean car is not unique. Other cars are also doing it. But for example, Tesla again, dead accurate. 50% state of charge is 50. Wait, shit. I have to call them later. Okay, but yeah, it's probably the place calling me. But okay, I need to wrap up soon. But you should try to get back to the same position. Yeah, so my plan is that as long as you turn around at least at 55% state of charge, you should be able to go back to the starting point or close to the starting point, wherever you want to end up, right outside the city. Because even elevation change can change when you go up a hill and then you go down the hill. The way some cars regen and stuff can be different, but at least if we end up at the same point, that is better. So what else can be done? Yeah, speedometer, speed correction and whatever, you know, still needs to be taken in consideration. And then suddenly we will have a good result that the car manufacturer will acknowledge. Because also another thing I need to point out is that NAF, at least they claim themselves that the test or that the consumers are important. So maybe they don't say this directly, that the test is done for the consumers, but at least I haven't found a place where they say that they do this test for car manufacturers. So when I read between the lines, they are doing this for the consumers. And if they care and if they make this test for the consumers, I mean, they even pull in BZ4X with their own money, right? They rented one for the consumers because the consumers want to know this. Well, if they want to do this for the consumers, they have to remember that the consumers are dumb. Okay, sorry for me speaking from the liver, but the consumers, they don't have time to understand state of charge scale, linearity, or heat loss and preheating and battery temperature and heat scavenging. They don't know all that shit. All they care about is to look at the test for 5 minutes and find out which car is best for them. So that's why they have to be as correct as possible. They don't have to explain all the corrections or anything like that, as long as the result they have there is correct. And another way of verifying this is that if other car tester like me or Elbil24, which is really skilled people, and also Elbilforeningen and Kyle and Battery Life, or, you know, as long as those people, we end up with the same result, that means that that result is trustworthy. If some German car manufacturer, if some German car tester suddenly tests the new Fat e-tron in downhill and tailwind in Germany with HVAC off, and he finds out that the latest Fat e-tron is super efficient, are people going to believe that? Yes, some people might fall for it, but most people in the car industry be like, lol, that test is rigged, you know? Yeah, so and also I remember there was one guy, he was like, Yeah, but lol, the NAF test is fine. You know, you're just nitpicking. It's just minor error. Who cares about that? Well, the measurement error is bigger than you think. You know, recently I got some shower walls installed, and the plumber wanted me to measure how big the measurement of the shower wall, how big is it, and it's well, in downstairs is 90 centimeters, upstairs is 100 centimeters. Let's take 100 centimeters as an example, right? So if you have 100 centimeter shower wall, and then the measuring tape or whatever I use, it's not accurate, right? Well, I need to hammer. Oh, Achtung, ich komme through. Yeah, okay, but yeah, if let's say if the real distance, or if the shower wall is not 100 centimeter, if it's 99.7, then it's fine, and you measure it, right, with 1 or 2 millimeter precision. But in this case, if it's supposed to be 100 centimeter and you measure it to be 90 centimeter or 95 centimeter, you see the problem. The plumber will then order a shower wall fit for 95 centimeters, and then suddenly it doesn't fit. That is basically the NAF test in a nutshell. So, I mean, how do I explain this? That you know, even my tests are not 100% correct. You know, my range test or whatever. But at least I claim that my test, I take in so many things in consideration. So they are down to the millimeter precision. But then the NAF test is in the centimeter precision in comparison. So, yeah. But I mean, like I said, you know, I don't want to be enemies with NAF. They are cool people. They do a great job. I just feel like they need to get a little nudge and get maybe get some tip about how they should do things. And also, I feel like I need to educate my audience that You just have to understand every aspect of tests done here and there, right? So, let me see. Shit, I need to call back that dude. I think I'm getting close to... No, let me check here. I need to... No, actually, I'm fine. I can talk longer, but I feel like the video is getting too long already. So maybe I should end it. Yeah, before it's too late. But there was actually some other things I read. There was a very interesting. Like the more you read about this, I don't know how much I should talk about all this stuff, but it's when it comes to Toyota, you know, and the range test and. Yeah, for example, I actually admit that my 1,000 kilometer challenge might not be that relevant for most people. The range test I feel like is relevant. Noise test also, you know, banana box test also, it gives you a sense of how spacious the car is. Even though, yeah, it is. I use quite big boxes, which can be advantage for some cars, like this car here. The AV9 is quite boxy. True. But with everything else, there will always be some measurement error, or but when it comes to 1,000 kilometer challenge, it's probably not relevant for most people. But in a way, it's like the ultimate stress test, just like when people do a Le Mans 24-hour. I mean, how relevant is it, right? And in another word, in another sense, even when you talk about range on fossil cars, does it matter? Or top speed on cars, does it matter? No, really, no. Drag racing, does it matter? No. But at least the 1,000 kilometer challenge, I will probably still do it. I will not change it. It's like the ultimate stress test to uncover any flaws that some cars have. So, but again, my test, I want to make them relevant and useful. And it should be real world, right? So that's the whole purpose. I'm doing the test for my consumers, but also actually for me though, I might also do the test for car manufacturers, because if there is a flaw, let's say rapid gate or some bug or some bad feature, car manufacturers can see this and they can fix this if they care about this. It has already been the case for many cars. So I think that's gonna be it. I need to call back the dude, and I also need to hammer this Danish Audi. Oh man, it's so nice. Oh yeah, EV9 man. Oh, it is so good. And also this landscape, man. Be like, Bjørn, don't stop. Yeah, okay. Keep going. Don't stop. I mean, it's really beautiful landscape here. Maybe I should try to find something else to talk about. But I was trying to remember now. I read. Maybe I also recommend you guys to also read about this test, and also about the comments from Elbil24, and and other places maybe about this test. So, but yeah, okay, whatever. I think I just have to end it here. But even though we just hit the most beautiful places now, but yeah. So hopefully this video was useful for you, and we'll see how it goes. I will read the comments as usual and see what you guys have, what kind of input you have, and then we'll just end it here. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, thank you for watching, and talk to you later.